Hey guys, happy Tuesday. It is May 13th. It's so good to be here with you guys. And I'm growing like for the first time in like 5 years. It seems like I'm growing on YouTube. Thank you so much. I'm battling the algorithm, but still growing thanks to your help. Be sure to like and subscribe. Tell your friends. I really do appreciate it. And also a shout out of love to my Rumble subscribers. I love you. And on X. And tonight's Tuesday. That means we are having the roundtable for my Substack supporters. If you're not part of the Substack, join up. It's not that expensive. You go to a restaurant, leave a tip. It's about the same amount for a month. And you get an extra video every Friday. And then every Tuesday, we have a really cool roundtable. We get together and discuss issues. It's a lot of fun. So be sure to check up with that. All right. Today's video is about the homeless. I saw Matt Walsh talk about it, and this is really a simple problem to solve. It's not really that complicated, and there's actually a humane way to solve this issue. The current situation is horrible. It's not fair to us, society. I don't want to see crazy bums screaming on the street, urinating in alleys. I don't want to see so-called homeless people with cardboard signs. I say so-called. Some of them are frauds, are begging. I don't want to see any of that. That's not good for society. We don't want to see that. But at the same time, people that are really in need, they need to get help. And like if someone's mentally ill, it's not really fair to keep them out in the elements. You want to do that to a dog. We shouldn't do that to humans, especially if there's something wrong with their brain. So I think this issue wouldn't require a lot to figure out. It's sort of like the immigration issue. Everyone's like, oh, it's so complicated. We're going to spend billions of dollars to study it. Donald Trump gets in, boom, illegal immigration is gone. It's gone pretty much. I mean, there's almost no one now. Now getting the ones in here, that's another issue out. But illegal immigration was solved quickly. And the homeless situation can be solved quickly. Homeless, that was a term that started in the 80s. Before then, they were called bums or hobos or whatever. And part of the issue is like, oh, but they have free speech. They have a right to be out there with a sign begging for money. I'm like, no, they don't. That's like a zoning issue. I just can't set up a business on Walmart's property or city property. They're going to like, where's your license? What are you doing here, Ramsey Paul? You just can't set up a business here without the proper permits. We have zoning. And begging for money is a type of business. You know, they don't pay taxes on it, and this is their income. That's a business. They have no right to be there. That's illegal. And I don't care, on their own time. If they want to have free speech, that's fine, but that is not free speech. So let's get rid of that idea right away. But the whole homeless problem, I've looked into this over years. There are basically three categories. The first category are the typical drunks or drug addicts. We've always had this Skid Row that was famous when I was a kid. I think that's in Los Angeles. But, you know, people drink their liquor and they sleep in the alley. And now we have a lot of drug addicts like fentanyl or whatever they're on. And they just lay around there. Sometimes they beg for money. And the money they get, they just buy booze or drugs with. We don't have to tolerate that. That's illegal activity. And now, if you want to get drunk in the privacy of your own home, and if you're not creating an issue, I don't have a problem with it. But you don't have a right to be drunk and laying on the street or drugged out of your mind on the street. I mean, I'm not going to debate drug legalization or whatever on this video, but you don't have a right to shoot up heroin, you know, right on the street where kids are walking, people are trying to enjoy the city. You don't have that right. So that should be obviously illegal. People that are drunk or on drugs, they should be rounded up by the police. And I'm not really that cruel. I don't want to see them hurt. I want to put them in a special drunk tank or prison or drug addict prison. And initially, it depends how many times you go in there. But, you know, you go in there so you don't have access to booze or drugs and you can get treatment. You know, initially, maybe just a week. If you do it again and get arrested, then a month. Do it again, then you have to stay in a year. But the thing is, we're getting these people help and they're not tormenting us. They're staying away from us. And so that's the way to deal with that. The second category of the homeless are the crazy people. You've all seen them. I remember 10 years ago, I was in Portland. Some black guy was just screaming randomly in the air at imaginary people. Again, we don't have to tolerate that. That is not free speech. That's creating a disruption. He's obviously ill in the head. And being schizophrenic is not something that requires like therapy. It requires medication. It's very similar to like breaking an arm. If you break an arm, you don't go into therapy to talk about your upbringing or your parents. You got to get your arm in a cast because there's something physically wrong. Schizophrenia, which a lot of these people are, is something in the brain, and it can be treated with drugs. Sadly, a lot of times they go off their drugs, their meds, and they go out there starting to scream. And it's not fair to them. They're like helpless. They can't, it's cruel to keep them out there. So we got to get rid of the stigma of taking these people off the street and putting them in mental hospitals. We used to do that, but then they had that movie, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It was originally a book, then a movie. It's like, oh no, they're just putting quirky people in against their will in mental hospitals. And I'm like, no, you can be quirky as you want. You can be as weird as you want, but you can't create a disruption around other people. If you do, you go in the mental ward. And again, like the drunk tank, initially maybe just a day, then a week, then a month. So the repeat offenders, eventually you're locked up. And if they can never fix you, then you should be in an asylum. At least you get fed, you get warm heat and air conditioning. It's better for you than sleeping on the street. So that's the second category. And the third is economic. And this does happen. People make bad decisions. They're in an area and maybe they lose their jobs and they didn't save or whatever. Things can happen. I understand that. And again, you don't have a right to beg on the street, but I don't want these people to starve or to die of exposure. So I would create shelters for them where they could go. They'd have a little unit about the size of a small bathroom with a toilet in it. That would be their little place for a while. And at the facility, they could get food, basic food, nothing fancy. It's not a place you want to stay long term, but it'd also be a zero toleration of crime. Because a lot of these shelters, they end up, a lot of criminals show up and be like, no, we're not going to tolerate that. If you commit crime, you go to prison. These are for people that are just down on their luck. They can get job training. They can help them get back in society. And again, it's not a permanent solution to keep them there. It's just a temporary thing. And then if they go back out and they get back on the street again, begging or sleeping, eventually they go to prison because they're breaking the law. It's like, no, you just can't do this. You got to do these certain things. And if you implemented these procedures or my policies I just outlined, it would make every city so much nicer for the rest of us. Just beautiful. You want to have these hobos and bums begging for money. You want to have the psychos screaming on the streets. You want to have to see these stupid drug addicts or drunks. You want to see that at all because the police would do their job and round these people up and put them in the proper place. And for these people, you're not doing any drug addict a favor, keeping them out there until they die of exposure. You're not doing a mentally ill schizophrenic any favor by keeping them out there. And people that have financial problems, you're not doing them a favor just living on the street. They should be in a facility. To me, this is just common sense. And it wouldn't be that expensive. Hell, compared to what we spend on the military and everything else, this would be a fairly inexpensive program. And it would just improve the life for the rest of us, because I just really can't stand these people. I really can't. Sometimes I feel sorry for them, but they shouldn't be on the streets. We shouldn't tolerate this. Even here in Fayetteville, we have these bums, with their cardboard signs, making up stories how they're ex-veterans or some bullshit. And they usually bring out a puppy as a prop. I'm like, no, we're not tolerating that. If the police officer will make a determination, if you're really out of money, you go to the shelter. If you're some drunk, you go to the drunk tank. If you're psycho, you go to the crazy ward. But you're not hanging out on the street. You're not begging money on the street. You're not zoned for this. You just can't create that business anywhere you want. So that is how I would deal with the issue. Talk to you guys later.